Joanne called me last Sunday because a person regularly scheduled to speak became ill and couldn't be here, and she asked me if I was ready. And I said, no, I'm not ready. And I have been trying to get ready for a month now. And I'd sit down and I'd write, and then I'd look at it and I thought, this is awful stuff. And I had something like writer's block sometimes. I couldn't get anything done. You know, and when you're preparing something for church, a writer's block is called it's a dam, right? Anyway, I was having one of, that's terrible, isn't it? I was having one of those. So someone asked me this morning, well, what are you going to talk about? And I said, I think it was Jerry. Said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see what it comes out. Put a mic in my hands and we'll see what happens. I got to looking at Easter on the internet, and the history of Easter is very funny. You know, it's a combination of pagan and Jewish and Christian traditions that embodies the idea of rebirth, resurrection, rebirth, and new life. And it's accrued a lot of sort of oblique traditions along the way. The Easter Bunny, I guess that comes to us from Germany. I hear from maybe around the 1850s it got here with German immigrants. The Easter Bunny, of course, rabbits we know are quite prolific and emblematic of life, abundant, and so it's quite natural that the Easter Bunny would be a strong symbol of Easter. The eggs, and eggs, of course, they're forbidden food during Lenten season, so it seemed quite natural that they would be decorated, you know, following Lenten season, and you can kind of let everything go and eat whatever you want after the Lenten season. Egg rolling is a strictly American tradition. It started in the White House in the administration of Rutherford B. Hayes, sometime in, I think, the 1880s, 1890s. And that the parade was actually a New York thing. The Easter parade, you know, it was a chance for the wealthy to get out there and strut their stuff and show off their new clothes. And so that's become a big deal now. You know, as I tried to reach for what the meaning of Easter is, without getting into the sort of the biblical elements of it, because I get sort of lost in that stuff. What I began to notice as I looked at belief all around the world is that virtually every society on earth has a story about rebirth, becoming new again, about things decaying and dying and then coming back. So there's this repeated theme in virtually all the religions of the world and in all the indigenous societies of the world. And by the way, it's interesting that no society has been found on earth that doesn't have a belief in an afterlife, a belief in something beyond them. There's been no society found that has none of that. So that's sort of the phenomenologic explanation of God. The ontological explanation of God is that we have the capacity to conceive of the higher being. That how is it our brain is wired to even think of this kind of thing? I suspect it might have come out of our early history as living creatures. You know, the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. You know, if you take this area here and think of this as the age of the Earth, and let this represent 1 billion years, that space, and this is another billion, and that's another billion, and that's another billion, and this is another billion. The Earth cooled from its molten state in that first 1.5 billion years, so just about where Christie is sitting, is where the Earth would be cool enough to be affected by the bombardment of meteors in order to get the life stuff that would actually help create life. Somewhere where between John and Deanne rather, somewhere in the middle there would be the point at which early plant life forms, and we get these organelles inside of cells that are able to reproduce themselves. And then we get down here, somewhere around here, we get more sophisticated animal and plant life. And then, if you want to talk about human life, it would be the width of this pencil, laid right here. That's how old we are, about 100,000 years old. So, all this is pretty new. I'm imagining that the world was a scary place for those early people. Things were crashing around through the brush and colliding above them, and a lot of noise and a lot of fear. Danger lurked everywhere. We think that life expectancy might have been something like 18 or 19 years for the average human being in those days, and so it was probably natural for them to invest in geographic places and in topographical phenomena, spirits, things like the Lady of the Falls, or the old man on the cliff, or the man in this bright orb that brings the new day and floats across the sky every day and goes down in the evening and then is reborn in the next morning. And so natural phenomena, if we're to believe the evidence of indigenous societies today, natural phenomena tended to get names in an animistic sort of way. That is, a meadow would be invested with a sprite, or a pond would have a spirit, waterfalls, a mountain, a storm, a wind, the ocean. Everything would have some life, and that life would look strangely human. The only thing that could conceive of it looking like and being like was something like a person, like a human being. So, as time goes on, we become a little more comfortable with our place. Place was important. We become more secure in ourselves. We begin to form larger societies. About this time, gods become more vindictive. The gods of the Greeks were angry gods. They were jealous gods. They sometimes flew down to earth and mated with human beings, and they played tricks on human beings. They were not friendly gods. They didn't have human interests at heart. But sometime in the first millennia before the new era, before what we call the Christian era, sometime in that millennia, really all over the world, teachers arose who began to speak of a one God and a God that was a friendly, human-friendly, supportive, and kind to the human race. And so our ideas about God began to change dramatically in that millennia before Christ. This is my first experience with the church. I went to church a few times when I was a kid, but not very often, and it was not a pleasant experience necessarily. But here, I started coming here, I don't know 7 years ago or so, and there was something that attracted me. I think when I come to church, I have the hope that I'm going to be given a glimpse of the real. The life that I have is full of some happiness, some joy, but it's also full of things connected with my family, which aren't necessarily too cool. Things going on with my kids or my grandkids. Things going on with the world, with war, with the weather, people being damaged, being hurt. The world is a harsh place. the world is full of sadness and it's suffering. So I come to church and I think, well, maybe I'm going to get, on this Sunday, I'm going to get a glimpse of the real, the glimpse of what lies beyond me. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I hear something that excites me, that tells me that, yeah, there is something more than me. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I come and there's a guy like me in front of the room talking and it makes no sense. And then what I fall back then is the community. I come for the community. I love my church family. I love my friends here. I've become comfortable with this community. So the fellowship is itself the thing many times. And so then I'm thinking the other day, well, maybe the magic I'm looking for is really in that. Maybe it's in the community. Maybe it's not in this thing outside myself that I'm waiting for something to come crashing in that's going to say, aha, here I am, and I'm real, and I'm right here. And maybe it's a quieter, more mundane, slower process. Maybe the process is me getting to know you and you getting to know me, and maybe that's what rebirth is really, really all about. So Easter is a ritual of remembering. As most of the things that we do in a church are a ritual of remembering. But it's a ritual of remembering about rebirth and about reinventing ourselves or being reinvented in some way. After the angry gods came this single God, as I was talking about earlier, and then a little later, the corporate church emerged. All over the world, corporate churches began to emerge as the instruments of state. And from that point on, we had a contest that was going on between knowledge and religion. And religion found itself constantly on the defensive against new knowledge and resisted change. I mean, when Constantine sat down with the Bishop Arrhenius in 325 AD to construct the Catholic Church, he wasn't doing it out of a belief in God. He was doing it because the state needed a church and they needed some way to justify their existence on a spiritual level rather than on just a political and economic level. So the move by Constantine toward the development of the Catholic Church in 325 AD was primarily about solidifying and securing the state's control over people and over territory. And that's the way it remained until Martin Luther, until new knowledge comes in and begins to challenge the church's steadfast adherence to things as they always are. Sorry, my phone, I have it on vibrate. Hello? Oh, it's you. What have I been doing? Well, I've been trying to talk a little bit about you. What have we decided? Well, I guess it's pretty much of a mystery. Oh, that's the way it's supposed to be? Okay. As long as I've got you on the phone, can I ask you a question? Okay. Are you a he or a she? You're everything and even more. And I don't want to know about the rest of that. Do you prefer to be called a he or a she? You prefer to be called a she. Okay.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
How many genders are there in this vast
That's
universe?
right.
I don't want to know.
Right.
You don't want to give me a headache. Okay.
That's right.
Can I ask you another question? Okay. When you created the universe, did you just create it and then step back, or are you actively involved with this? I mean, are you hands-on or hands-off? What do I think?
This is so cool.
That's why I'm asking you. Oh, so that it is a matter of faith.
I love it.
And we should be assured that we belong here, that it's okay, and that even if we die, it's going to be all right. Oh, no, okay, that's a pretty good answer. So we don't have to worry about it. Okay, don't have to worry about it. Do we have to do anything special to earn our place here? No. You can't kill anybody.
I love it.
We can't steal. We can't deceive people. We have to be kind. And but what about my neighbor's wife? She's kind of a hottie. No, so that doesn't work. Okay, so I got to leave my neighbor's wife alone. All right. So that's not a good idea. All right. Can I ask you another question? Are you out there, or are you in here? You're everywhere. So I don't have to go to the mountaintop. Okay. So I can get you after breakfast when I'm in the bathroom.
Sitting on the floor.
Oh, okay. I wanted to clear that up. What did you think about the talk? Boring. Okay. A little windy. Okay. You wanted more about the candy and the Easter parade. Yeah, I got you. And you. Okay. He wants to know. She wants to know if anybody has any questions. Any questions? No? No questions?
I got a question.
Okay.
What does she have to say about the devil?
About the devil?
Oh, I can answer that. I can definitely answer that.
I'll get back to you on that.
I can definitely answer that.
Actually, she asked you know what she asked, yes. The devil is in the details. It's in the details. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah. What happens after we die? She wants to know what happens after we die. The same thing that happens to an egg salad sandwich when you eat it. Okay. Okay, all right, I got that. But the main thing is we're not supposed to worry about anything, right? That's right, and we're supposed to enjoy ourselves. That's right, go to the parade. Okay. Well, thank you so much for, can I call you tomorrow? Okay, thank you.